State of the Sun Devils with Jeremy Schnell, Jesse Morrison, and Mitch Bareldes, an Arizona Sports podcast.
Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils alongside Jesse Morrison and Mitch Bareldes. I'm Jeremy Schnell. So expected to hire is the way we're going with here.
We go. We did it. We expectedly did it.
There is expected to be an announcement coming soon about an athletic director. Graham Rossini is where ASU seems to be going with this, Mitch. He has been at ASU on and off for the past 22 years.
An alum of the university.
Correct.
As well.
So I guess more than 22 years if you put into the years that he put into school. Initial reaction from you to this possible hire and possible announcement coming soon.
So I would have been a lot more excited about this hire had it not, this expected hire, had it not come with all the negative reception to it when it was first reported that Rossini was going to fill the spot of the recently vacated Ray Anderson. Generally speaking, without any of the reception that came as a result of the reports initially from a couple of weeks ago, I'm actually really optimistic about this hire for one reason and one reason only. He's 44 years old. And he's been around the university. He's very much been involved with professional sports teams. He's worked with the Diamondbacks before. If they get this hire right, if they nail this hire, he could be here for a good 2, maybe even 3 decades, Jesse, if they did this right.
Yeah, if they did it right. Which is the big caveat. Which is the big caveat. And I just don't like the fact that it appears like they did not go through a national search. Damon, if you could fire off this cut from Chris Cartman on Bickley and Murata this morning. It just did not seem like they went through any national search. It seems like they just had Graham Rossini, and that's it.
Graham Rossini, who I've been told for at least the last several months is the only person that Michael Crow has targeted for this position. I talked to a lot of industry insiders, people that work at search firms. I talked to several other athletic directors and agents of a number of athletic directors, none of whom said that they heard of ASU seriously vetting or interviewing any other candidates.
Here's my problem with that, is ASU has had some notable struggles in the athletic space in the past, 4, 5 years, 6 years, I don't know, whatever, ever since the whole Herm debacle happened. And to bring somebody in that was here when Herm, or to promote somebody that was here when Herm was still the active football coach at Arizona State, bothers me a little bit. I think that going outside, bringing a fresh voice in would have been a really good idea. However, there are some things on Graham Rossini's resume that I absolutely love, and I think that he could be a huge asset to this university and this athletic department. One thing that stood out to me, he was big on hiring J.J. Van Niel, the volleyball coach, who had one of the best seasons of any head coach. That's been
one of the best turnarounds we've seen from an athletics team at Arizona State in a long time, going from worst to best, basically.
Yeah, and to find out that was him and not Ray is awesome. Like, I think that is great. Number 2, when he was with the D-backs, he oversaw the design, building, ticket sales, and marketing of Salt River Fields, which, if you've ever been out there to their spring training facility, is fantastic.
State of the art for a spring training facility in Arizona.
Which makes me think that he might be able to solve this Desert Financial Arena problem. that place is a dump. We all know it's a dump, and he might be able to fix that, which is awesome. And he's been responsible for Sun Devil Athletics external departments, which include NIL development.
Can we tangent on that specific subject right now?
Yes.
I was actually going to bring that up, right?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I was going to say I'm very mixed feelings about this possible hire and the expectation that they are going to hire Rossini. The reason is we think of this athletic department as not really knowing how to go about being in this new NIL space, right? But if he has been very integral in the new Mountain America Stadium naming rights, and he's helping out with the Adidas sponsorship and stuff like that, I say give him a chance. I'm with you, Jesse. I would have liked ASU to go with an outside hire, and it is kind of concerning that they possibly didn't go out and do more interviews with more candidates. But I am also intrigued to see what Rossini can do, Mitch.
And that's one of the big reasons why I actually like the hire more the way I think about it. Yeah, the resume is not super long compared to any of the other rumored candidates that were out there. Any other candidate who would fill a specific role like this. But he's young, which means he has a greater understanding of how this current NCAA sports, athletics, all the different dynamics, how everything is changing, how everything is evolving, specifically with NIL. And it has been harped on for so long, how this university seems to refuse to get into the game of NIL. And I think with Rossini's background, specifically getting money for this university, that's going to translate perfectly for these athletic programs that have been starved of NIL opportunities, Jesse.
And another thing that I think is really important here is that he brought in the Mountain America Stadium sponsorship deal. He's agreed or helped, get a deal to extend the Desert Financial naming rights on that arena. I think you've just got to give him a chance. You've got to give this new regime a chance. The other thing that I'm a bit hesitant about, though, is that he's on Crow's University Council, and I feel like he might be a little bit too, tied in with Michael Crow, and we have, again, many questions about how he is, how much he cares about athletics, which, Damon, again, if you want to play this Chris Cartman cut about that.
The most likely scenario that people have said to me is that Michael Crow wants control. He wants things to be done his way, that somebody who's external, who's already been successful at another school as an athletic director, would have a lot more deeply entrenched perspective about what needs to happen to correct at ASU, and that would be something that maybe Crow would be resistant to. And that makes a lot of sense.
And isn't that the most ironic thing that we've heard when it comes to talking about Michael Crow and athletics, given, Jeremy, that he's made it very, very clear that it's not at the top of his priority list when it comes to being president of the university? Now it almost feels like he's injecting himself into a field that he doesn't seem to have the interest in.
Well, maybe that's a good thing, possibly, because he has been successful in the other fields that he has entrenched himself into. I don't know if what Cartman is, he has very good insight and sources, and I'm sure he knows a lot that we don't know. But, if it is true for what he's saying, I say give it a chance, honestly. We're seeing growth from this university from a bunch of different programs, whether it be football, whether it be men's basketball. Women's basketball has had a pretty good offseason from what we've seen. Volleyball had a great year last year, and all the other programs are doing great. So if Michael Crow can come in and help Graham Rossini out a little bit, I don't think it would be such a bad thing for him to start to get involved in the athletic department. If he really thinks that he can do a good job, then by all means.
Yeah, maybe Michael Crow has started to take athletics more seriously, and he wants control because he wants to make sure that he doesn't just pass it off to somebody that's going to make rogue decisions that aren't great for the university. And so maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing. It does just give me a little bit concern because of just track record.
Can we stick on the negative path just for a second? Because
Sure.
I feel like a lot of what we said has been positive, and rightfully so. I think the three of us, Damon included in this, kind of agree that Rossini, while it doesn't come with the necessary resume of becoming an athletic director, we are still optimistic of what Graham could be able to accomplish year one in the Big 12.
We also have no other choice. If we whine and cry about this, it's not going to change anything.
Right.
So
you've just got
you got to look at the
give
positives.
the person a chance.
Yeah.
But I do worry, to Jesse's point, and to what Chris has been telling Bickley Murata this morning, what he's been saying to all of his followers with Sun Devil Source, if this is just... I guess more so I'm frustrated with the process. If this was the guy that they were going to hire, or are expected to hire this whole time, why did it take 6 months? If this is the guy that they wanted to elevate into this position, did they need to wait until they were done restructuring finances to make this move? If Rossini was already on the payroll to begin with, don't you think he would have been approving of the matters that they were going to adjust when it came to these finances?
Devil's Digest, shout out Hode, he reported that ASU wanted to wait until the NCAA investigation had concluded and all the findings were out. So that's why they waited. I don't really understand why that had to happen,
especially
but that's the reporting.
Especially if they were going with an internal hire.
Yeah, that's the reporting that's out there, is that they wanted to
What were
wait
they
till
thinking?
it was over.
If Rossini was implicated in the investigation, then he wouldn't be hired? Is that why?
Were they afraid
Maybe.
that
I
Rossini
don't know.
was going to be implicated?
That's what I'm
Because
asking.
if that's the case, then why did you consider him in the first place?
Correct.
Yeah.
If he was going to be one
And
of the...
that's just speculation. That's not me. I don't know anything.
We know nothing
yeah.
in regards to
Yeah.
if he had any role whatsoever. But we also understand that there's a reason why a lot of boosters were vocal about the reportings that it was going to be Rossini elevated. And look, I don't know him personally. I had one conversation with the man, and he seems very motivated about, at the time when he was serving in his previous position, seems very motivated about the opportunities that can come with NIL and a move to the Big 12. So while I remain optimistic about what he can do, I still have a ton of questions about what is to come with the move to the Big 12, with how it's always a turnover with the roster year after year after year. And the biggest thing, can NIL be the biggest improvement that Rossini makes when it comes to this athletic department? That's what I need to see.
I want to move back for a second to the established programs that ASU has right now, Jesse and Mitch, because from what we've seen this offseason from both men's basketball and football has been spectacular, and what looks like a fantastic 2025 recruiting class for Kenny Dillingham as well. What is Graham Rossini inheriting in this athletic department, Jesse?
I think he's inheriting programs on the rise, but very early in that process of programs being on the rise. Like, we need to be able to see these teams keep their good players around, and have success on the field. Like, these recruiting classes and everything and transfer portal jobs can be great on paper, but prove it. And
That's a good word.
It's a very Wolf thing to say.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I went there. So yeah, I mean that's got to be what needs to happen. So, but I do want to say that with that, and that actually ties really good into the point I want to make here, is that back in the day, and I know that the landscape is so much different, but when Graham Rossini was the director of baseball ops for Arizona State, 2 College World Series, 2 conference titles, 5 top 5 recruiting classes. So they had success on the field when he was in that role.
Well, we've also known that a lot of and I don't mean to categorize baseball into the Olympic sports group, but it's not basketball and it's not football when it comes to the moneymakers at the university.
It's a step above the Olympic sports, right. I would say, especially at Arizona State. Barry Bonds went here.
Baseball's back in the Olympics now, guys.
Dustin Pedroia went here.
Baseball is historic to this university. I understand
Correct.
that. And he works hard to maintain that level of notoriety when it comes to this program at this university. But that's not his responsibility anymore, assuming that the reporting is correct, and we trust the reporting to be correct, that Rossini is going to be approved by the Board of Regents and be the new athletic director of the university. His main focus now needs to be on the Big 2. It needs to be on basketball for men's. It needs to be on football. It needs to be on the ones where this university is truly going to benefit monetarily, right? Like, he's already gotten a head start with the NIL in terms of the naming rights deals with the universities, the partnerships that they have with Adidas and Desert Financial Arena. It needs to go further. It needs to go now micro on the two biggest entities of the university.
I would kind of disagree there, Mitch, because I think that with what we've seen with the growth of the women's tournament, and then with how popular the College World Series is and how popular the Women's College World Series is, we need to see baseball, softball be really good, women's basketball be really good, in addition to those two sports being really good. I think that's the big five that you've got to be good in those five sports. But yeah, I mean, obviously men's basketball and football, like, those are the two big money makers. Yeah. But those five, I think you can do all of it and be really good in those five, because those are the ones that really bring the notoriety to your school. And in ASU's case, hockey, wrestling too. I mean,
gymnastics.
Yeah, I have
triathlon.
I have a problem, saying like, oh, they should focus
swim and dive.
They should focus, more on this. I think that you can make the big time revenue sports really good,
pickleball,
while also having a lot of really good, non-revenue sports.
Table tennis. Last thing. Sorry, I was just starting to name Olympic sports again.
I just want a holistic approach, Jeremy.
So one thing that we had. This is the last thing that we got to touch on here today, guys. Last thing was that I think that he needs to focus on talking to these donors. He needs to talk to some of these people, because if some of this reporting was right and people were not happy with the possible hire of Rossini, he's got to go and he's got to win them over, because that's important for NIL. That's the biggest thing.
To clarify, not Rossini specifically, based off of the reporting, the fact that it was an internal hire right as the NCAA infractions came down officially.
Yeah.
3 years later, by the way.
He needs to go out there. He needs to shake hands. He needs to kiss babies. He needs to smile and wave. Do all the things that you got to do to make people like you.
And on that note, that's going to do it for this edition of State of the Sun Devils. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on all forms of social media at AZ Sports Devils, including Threads, Jesse.
We have Threads?
Yeah, crazy. For my good friends, Jesse Morrison and Mitch Ferreldis.
Good.
Friends.
Good.
I'm Jeremy Schnell.
What?
We'll talk to you soon.